All right, we had, I think, one of the craziest first round drafts I've seen in my, 10, 11 years covering the NFL draft. It was a lot of fun. I know when I did my final mock draft, I talked about how I didn't anticipate having a lot of correct picks just because I think there was going to be a lot of uncertainty, and there wasn't a whole lot of random names that kind of popped up. There were a few, and we'll talk about those. But it was just this first round was dominated by trades. I mean, comparing, I mean, you had the Vikings trading all the way from 12 to 32. You had the Ravens trading back three times. We had players trade. We had AJ Brown traded. We had Marquise Hollywood Brown traded. It was a crazy first round, but it was a ton of fun. And I'm here to break it down. And I'm going to try and go through each of these picks. I'm not going to try and spend a ton of time. I want to keep this short because I kind of want to go to bed. But like I said, it was a fun draft. And let's get into it. And these first two picks, I'm not going to spend a ton of time on them because we kind of knew they were going to happen. Trayvon Walker going to the Jacksonville Jaguars, Aiden Hutchinson going to the Detroit Lions. We knew that was going to happen. I think most people had it. If they didn't have Walker 1, they had Hutchinson, and they probably had Walker 2. So both teams got the guys that they wanted. Not much to go from there. Another thing about this draft, picks were coming in quick. I mean, we had teams coming. This first, I mean, it's nearly 11. I guess it wasn't that fast. But there was times it's like pick is pinned, pick is in. It's like you're not even coming close to using your first 10 minutes. But once again, that's fine. All right, so the draft really started here at pick 3 with the Houston Texans taking Derek Stingley. I had a couple people ask me when that pick was made, were you surprised? And I wasn't. I mean, we've been hearing for 2 weeks ago, Lovie Smith talked about they needed to improve the cornerback position. That made a lot of people, myself included, thinking maybe they're going to take Sauce Gardner. And then this last week, there was a lot of reports out there that Derek Stingley was their choice. And I had him taking Ike Ekwonu, but I mean, should have gone with Derek Stingley. I mean, it fits with what they want to do. I know he's not the cover 2 corner that Lovie Smith has traditionally had, but Lovie Smith didn't play a lot of cover 2 last year. And so I think the Texans are getting who they think is the best available player. And in this case, that's Derek Stingley. Pick 4, we have the Jets. And they took Ahmed Sauce Gardner, so we saw cornerback go here. And once again, it wasn't a surprise. This is actually who I mocked them. I thought that they were going to take Ike Ekwonu going here. He ended up slipping down to 6, and I did see earlier today at one point there was a report that there was potentially a shoulder issue with Ekwonu. So him sliding out to the 6th pick, which we'll talk about in just a little bit, maybe a big part of that was, reason why Houston didn't take him at 3, the Jets didn't take him at 4, New York didn't take him at 5, is because of that shoulder injury. And who knows? I mean, maybe they just thought he was a guard and they didn't like him. And maybe the media, we liked Ike Ekwonu better. But staying on topic, the New York Jets taking Ahmed Sauce Gardner. I mean, once again, it was a good fit. When I mocked them, I said, he's going to give them that cover 3 shutdown corner that Robert Saleh wants, and he had a similar type of prospect that he had in Richard Sherman. Cornerback was a huge need for them, so that was their pick. At 5, we have the New York Giants taking Kayvon Thibodeau. This is a guy that I had a mock there at 7. So not too surprised that was the pick. They need pass rushers. And not only do we have Thibodeau go here at 5, we have 5 defensive players. When's the last time we've seen the NFL draft. I mean, usually this is dominated by quarterbacks, and it's dominated, we didn't even have an offensive tackle go in the top 5. It was, pass rusher, corner, pass rusher. Just kind of shows you the type of class we had. But the Giants, they need pass rushers in Wink Martindale's defense. They have Azeez Ojulari, but they needed somebody else, and they got that in Thibodeau. As I mentioned earlier, Ike Mekwonu went 6. Little surprised he fell. I did see a lot of people mocking him 9 and even out of the top 10 today, and a little surprised. And then he started falling. I was like, oh geez, maybe I'm the one that's a little too high on him. But that fit with the narrative that the Panthers weren't going to take a quarterback here. They take Ike Mekwonu. They're going to put him at their left tackle. They have huge issues along that offensive line, especially at tackle. So Ekwonu's the guy. I thought they might have gotten Evan Neal even with Ekwonu there, but I think that's the guy that they really liked, and it was a really good pick. Ekwonu was a top 5 player for me. Picking 7 was the Giants. We knew they were going to take tackle. Charles Cross was the hot name linked to them. And so I thought that's where they're going to go, especially with the reports that we had of Evan Neal, having some injury issues, lingering stuff that popped up on the medical reports. That ended up not being the case. And Evan Neal goes 7 and gives them that right tackle. That's another thing we kept hearing about the Giants is they wanted to get a right tackle. And Andrew Thomas seems solidified in that left spot. So there's people are like, oh, well, maybe they've worked out Cross at right tackle. Maybe they're going to move Andrew Thomas to right tackle. Well, now with Evan Neal, he is their right tackle. Evan Neal started 2020 that season at right tackle. He's got experience there. So he'll just slide in that spot, and they got exactly with what they wanted. All right, pick 8 was Drake London to the Atlanta Falcons. That was another pick that a lot of people were having, myself included. Arthur Smith had all that success with A.J. Brown in Tennessee, and Drake London had a similar skill set where he's more of a physical type of receiver, contested catch type guy. And so now you've got Kyle Pitts and Drake London, 2 guys that can go up and get the ball. So whoever their quarterback is going to be, Marcus Mariota next year, I mean, who knows? Malik Willis is still available. Maybe they're going to go up and get him. That was a guy that some people were connecting the dots to them at 8, and maybe they go a second round and go get Malik Willis and take a shot and say, hey, let's see what we got, and maybe we get a bargain here in the second round, and we can, don't have to take a quarterback next year, or maybe they just decide that they, whatever. But like I said, they needed some help at receiver, especially with Calvin Ridley gone for next year, and Drake London. He was the first wide receiver taken. Pick 9, we have the Seattle Seahawks. They had to be elated here. Going into the draft, I had heard rumors that the couple guys that they really like were Kayvon Thibodeau, Derek Stingley, and Charles Cross. And if they would have got any of those, they would have been happy. And Charles Cross fell into their lap, and I think he fits well with what they want to do. They want athletic linemen. He's definitely one of them. And they really didn't have anyone at left tackle. Dwayne Brown was their guy last year. They still hadn't re-signed him, so they could have technically went out and got him. But instead, they got Charles Cross, one of the better linemen in this draft, and he's going to be plugged in there hopefully for them for many years. All right, at pick 10, we have a big wide receiver run. We have the Jets taking Garrett Wilson, the Saints trading up to get Chris Olave, and the Detroit Lions trading all the way up from 32 to 12 to get Jameson Williams. That to me was the biggest shocker of the draft. Just because when they moved up, I was like, oh, you didn't see that coming. You never heard anything, and that's what happens. You don't always hear stuff in the NFL draft of what's going to happen. And initially, when I thought they moved up to the 12th pick, my first thought was they're taking Malik Willis. They're getting their quarterback. And they ended up taking Jameson Williams, and I just literally turned to my wife, and I was like, wow, I did not see that happening. Texted a Lions friend of mine. He's ecstatic. I like this move. I like this move for them. And I think the Lions, not only did they trade up from 32, but they did it in the division. They traded up with the Vikings, and the Vikings let them move up 20 spots and get a dynamic playmaker, a guy that a lot of people view as the number one receiver in this class if it wasn't for his ACL injury. And it sounds like everything's going to be come back. It's going to be clean surgery, clean injury. It's just, it's midseason. And that's the thing about the Lions. They don't expect to contend next year. It's still another rebuilding year. I think their big run is going to be when they get a quarterback in next year's draft. And then they're ready to go, and they've got weapons around. So I love this pick. I hate it for Vikings fans. I know a bunch of Vikings fans, and I was texting with them, and they were mad. My cousin's a big Vikings fan. He was pissed. And you should be. I mean, not only do you go from 12 to 32, but they got 32 and 34. And so you have to think maybe there wasn't anybody that they felt truly comfortable with. And they said, hey, we feel better with two guys, in that 32 and 34 than we do with who we were going to get here. But then they also gave up their second round pick. I mean, if you look at the compensation that was made in this pick, you go to the trade value chart, the Vikings were negative 230. 230 is equal to a mid third round pick. So not only did the Vikings trade back into the from 12 to 32, but they basically lost a third round pick in the deal. And it just doesn't. You would think like, oh, maybe the Lions they lose out on that pick, and they lose out on the pick, but it's okay because they moved all the way up into the the top 15. Sorry, the dog wants to play with me. And they lose the third round pick, but to be the team that moves back, it just doesn't make any sense. I mean, we'll talk about who they took at 32. We'll see who they take at 34. But if you're a Vikings fan and you've got a new general manager, this is the first thing he truly does. You have to be sick to your stomach. Now, I don't want to skip over Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave going, and here's another thing. 10, 11, 12, three receivers. Ohio State had all three of those guys on the roster at one time. That's just, we talked about Alabama's group the last couple of years with Waddle, Devontae Smith, Ruggs, and Jerry Jeudy, and those guys all went kind of in that 6 to 15. I mean, we're seeing 10, 11, 12. And the Jets get their guy in Garrett Wilson. They couldn't get A.J. Brown. They couldn't get Deebo Samuel. They couldn't get DK Metcalf. They couldn't get Tyreek Hill. So they did go in the draft to get their guy. The Saints moved up. The Saints were a team that you knew with those 2 first-round picks, they were going to take 2 players. You knew a receiver was one of them. They love drafting Ohio State receivers, so it's no surprise that they moved up. I didn't think they were going to. I actually mocked Chris Olave 11, but I thought the Commanders would take him. But he was definitely a player that I thought the Saints could take. I just thought he'd go ahead of them. All right, moving on. Let's drop down to 13. Jordan Davis to the Philadelphia Eagles. That was another pretty commonly talked about destination for him. He fits well with what the Eagles want to do. The Eagles, they need some better, help at interior pass rush. Fletcher Cox they brought back on a 1-year deal. I think he'll be a good mentor to Jordan Davis and really kind of help develop him as an interior pass rusher. 14, we have Kyle Hamilton going to the Baltimore Ravens. This is just a typical Ravens pick. The Ravens always have good players fall into their lap, and everyone got fixated that Kyle Hamilton ran a 4.59 40-yard dash at the combine. But I mean, before the combine, we were looking at his tape, and he was talked about as one of the top 5 players in the draft. He plays fast on film. Some of those limitations, we saw it on film. So just because there's a number there doesn't mean that he's a bad prospect. And I think, once again, he'll go into the Ravens, play safety for them, probably make several Pro Bowls, and this will be like Derwin James all over again. We'll be like, how did Derwin James last to pick 17? And then years from now, we're going to be like, how did Kyle Hamilton fall all the way to 14 right into the Baltimore Ravens' laps? That's why they continue to be the Baltimore Ravens. Pick 15, this is the Houston Texans. They traded back with the Eagles. Kind of a surprise. This pick was another pick that kind of caught me off guard. This was the Houston Texans taking Kenyan Green. I thought maybe they'd take Trevor Penning. I thought maybe they'd take a pass rusher. Maybe I thought Trent McDuffie, Jermaine Johnson, and Trevor Penning were their 3 choices. And they took Kenyan Green. And, he's a Houston native. He could play guard. They need a guard next to Laramie Tunsil. So it made a lot of sense. I didn't, he's kind of in the range that I had him ranked. So I really shouldn't be too surprised. But it's just something that you didn't really hear a lot about. And so I guess it just kind of catches you off guard. Pick 16, we have the Washington Commanders going ahead and taking Jahan Dotson. In the teens here, we're seeing this run on receivers, and the Commanders know that they needed a receiver. I'm just a little surprised that they didn't just take Olave there at 11. Maybe they didn't feel like he was a good fit. Maybe they felt like he was too similar to Terry McLaurin. Whatever it may be, maybe they just said, hey, we can move back and get Dotson, who we have pretty closely rated to Olave, and accumulate some picks. So, but they get the receiver a little early for me on Dotson. I just didn't have him ranked as high, but once again, that doesn't mean he's not going to be a good player. I mean, I could be wrong with that too. I mean, it's been like that before. 17, Los Angeles Chargers. I thought this was going to be Trevor Penning. And maybe I just valued Trevor Penning a little bit higher. I know I'd heard rumors that teams like, the Seahawks and the Jets really liked him. You heard rumors that the Chargers were going to move up to get Trevor Penning, and maybe I just bought into that. I mean, I like Trevor Penning, but I didn't think he was a top, 15 to 20 prospect. I kind of had him in the 20s range. And they took Zion Johnson, and there was some rumors out there that Zion Johnson could be the Chargers pick, and, once again, we kept hearing about them wanting that right tackle to protect Justin Herbert. Well, now they get that right guard or left guard or wherever they're going to end up putting him. Here's a guy that has played tackle. He's played guard. Some people say he can move into center. He was my number 1 rated interior offensive lineman. I'm a big Zion Johnson fan. I think this is tremendous value. I just didn't think it was going to go this high. Pick 18 was, I think, the biggest surprise. I just can't believe. I'm sitting here watching the draft, and I do a lot of stuff with Titan Upload, a YouTube channel. Great guy, great content, and so I do a lot of stuff with them. I always go on their draft show, and so I kind of have a little soft spot in my heart for Titans, and I just cannot believe that they traded away A.J. Brown. As I told my wife when we were watching the draft, the whole purpose of the draft is to draft A.J. Browns. That's the guys that you want. You want to find those guys in the second round. And when you get them, you want to sign them to a long-term deal. And obviously, they couldn't sign them to a long-term deal. There was some type of hiccup there. I just never thought they'd trade them. I thought they'd keep them, maybe franchise them, eventually work out a deal. But there must have been something that happened that really kind of ruined it for them. And they just said, hey, we're moving you to the Eagles. And Howie Roseman, I've given him crap in the past about his drafting, especially at receiver, and some of his other moves. He's shown himself to be a pretty elite general manager this offseason. Just the things that they do, the trade with the Saints. Now, I mean, he gave up the 18th pick for A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown, I think, would be the best receiver in this draft. And they get him for the 18th pick. And they sign him to an extension. Now you're looking at the Eagles, and you've got Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown for Jalen Hurts to throw to, plus a good offensive line. I think the Eagles are automatically the top team in the AFC East now. And it was just another tremendous first round for Howie Roseman. Now, not only do the Titans trade A.J. Brown, but they trade him for a pick and then draft the guy that's his best comp. So you're hoping that you trade away a guy that's a Pro Bowl level player to get a guy that's similar to him that you hope can be. It doesn't make sense. And John Robinson's a good general manager, but his handling of first round picks, I just have not been a big fan of. And we'll see. I mean, this team is still built upon Derrick Henry's back. So, I like Treylon Burks. I just don't like this move by the Titans. Pick 19, we have the Saints taking Trevor Penning. If Saints fans have to be pretty happy. You're leaving this draft with your starting left tackle and a starting receiver. And they made these moves up to get these guys, and I think they have to be pretty happy. We kept hearing that they're going to take two guys. They needed two starters because they feel like they can contend right away. And they went out and they got the two positions that they desperately needed. So another, good move by the Saints organization. All right, Steelers. Now, I talked about a couple surprises. The Lions moving up was a surprise. The Texans taking Kenyan Green was a surprise. I was a little surprised that Kenny Pickett was the first, not only the first quarterback taken. I guess if he was the first quarterback taken, it wasn't going to surprise me. But he was the first quarterback taken, whatever. But the Steelers took him. We kept hearing they want Malik Willis. I mean, lots of people. I'm not a big Malik Willis fan. I have a third-round grade on him. He was like my fourth-rated quarterback. I think he's got a ton of talent. He's just as raw can be, and he's going to take some time to develop. But I thought the Steelers were going to take him. It seemed to fit with what they want. We kept hearing how much Mike Tomlin loved him, and he doesn't even go in the first round. And the Steelers pass on him for Kenny Pickett. And I like Kenny Pickett, but Kenny Pickett is ceiling is Kirk Cousins. Is that what you really want out of the first quarterback taken? And I guess you get him at 20, so it's not that big of a deal. But definitely interesting. I think Kenny Pickett's going to be the starter for the Steelers at some point. It's not going to be right away. Mitchell Trubisky will hold down the fort for a little bit. But by mid-season, I think Kenny Pickett, he's a guy that can come in right away. He's experienced. He's 6 years in college football. He really shined this past year. And, he'll come in and, like I said, I think he'll take over. And if he can distribute the ball, they've got some weapons. They don't have a ton of them. But they got Deontay Johnson. They got the guy from Notre Dame, Chase Claypool. You've got Pat Freiermuth. You get Najee Harris. They're always good at drafting receivers in the second and third round. So we'll see who they take there. But if they can get some weapons, he's a good guy that can distribute, and they're going to play defense. They're going to run the ball, and he's going to take some shots. So I think it'll probably fit. All right, so as we continue to get into the 20s, the 21st pick I thought might be the steal of the draft. Trent McDuffie going to the Chiefs. We heard that they're going to move up. We kind of thought they were going to be a receiver, but there was a talk out there that it could have been a cornerback, and that's what they do. And when the Chiefs traded for and selected McDuffie, I kind of forgot that he hadn't been picked. Because we kept on hearing him. Oh, he could go to the Texans. He could go to the Ravens. He could go to the Vikings. And there was a lot, the Eagles, a lot of talk about Trent McDuffie going in those teams. And I think with all the trades that were happening, he kind of got lost in the shuffle. Like I said, I totally forgot that he was there. But now the Chiefs, a team that doesn't have a whole lot of needs, gets the third best cornerback in this draft, who I think is a pretty dang good. He was my 7th rated player in this class. I like Trent McDuffie a lot. And he's not the biggest, he's not 6'1", 6'3", like Stingley or Sauce Gardner is. But he's got a fluid athlete. He's got quick twitch ability. I love this pick by the Chiefs. I think they got arguably the best. It could be the best pick or best value in the first round. Kind of go through some of these pretty quick. 22, the Green Bay Packers took Quay Walker, linebacker of Georgia. We kept hearing that Walker would probably be the first linebacker taken. He was. I mocked him to the Packers, so pat on the back. I just saw a guy that's raw, that's versatile, and could really fit with what the Packers, defensive coordinator, what they want to do with their defense, and so that made a lot of sense to me. The Buffalo Bills moved up to take Kyer Elam, the cornerback out of Florida. Another guy that we had heard, sounded like cornerback was going to be where they went. I thought it might have been Kyler Gordon because I had Kyer Elam going to the Patriots earlier. But when this pick came up, I said this is either Kyer Elam or Kyler Gordon, and Elam I think is going to be a good fit for them. Pick 24, Cowboys. I honestly thought they were going to take Jermaine Johnson. There's rumors that they wanted to move up to get a pass rusher. Jermaine Johnson was falling. I get why he was falling, but I thought this pick would be a good value. They need a pass rusher. They don't have Randy Gregory anymore. They want to move around Micah Parsons some more. And I thought, hey, this would be a good fit for what they want to do. Instead, they take, I think, the most overrated prospect in this first round, and that's Tyler Smith. When I watched Tyler Smith, I did not see a first-round pick. I see a guy that's going to bust out of the NFL. And who knows? Maybe I'll be proven wrong. I've been wrong. Justin Pugh was a guy that I did not like. I thought he was a 5th, 6th-round pick. He goes in the first round to the Giants. Still playing in the NFL, playing pretty well. I was wrong on him. But when I look at Tyler Smith, I see a guy that plays too high, that doesn't have good balance. The clips that ESPN showed, once again, he's just standing like straight up, and half of the clips they showed, he ended up on the ground. Now, sometimes he pancaked the guy on the ground, but I think he's a major work in progress. I just thought there's better prospects available, so if I'm a Cowboys fan, I'm not happy. I think this might be one of the worst picks in the first round. Pick 25, we have the Baltimore Ravens taking Tyler Linderbaum. Here's another team that I thought could have gone with Jermaine Johnson. That's who I mocked them to pick at pick 14 or whatever they were originally slotted at. So I thought, gosh, you're going to fall into Kyle Hamilton and Jermaine Johnson. But they ended up taking Tyler Linderbaum. And a little bit surprising, Linderbaum's not your typical Ravens lineman. They like kind of more of a size type guy. But I think with Lamar Jackson and his athleticism, I think they're going to look to try and get a little bit more athletic up front. And so I think if that's the case, Linderbaum's going to be a good fit for them. Here's a guy that I have as a top 15 prospect. I might have him close to a top 10 prospect. And I didn't have him going in my first round of my mock draft because I just, kept hearing that maybe teams weren't viewing him as high. His short arms, his lack of size might hinder him going in the first round. But he's top center in the draft. The Ravens got the best center in the draft. Now, one thing I forgot here, though, is this was technically the Cardinals' pick. The Cardinals traded their first-round pick to the Ravens for Hollywood Brown. And we'd heard about them wanting a receiver. Last year's draft when they took Zaven Collins, there was talk that they really wanted Jalen Waddle. They want that speed receiver opposite of DeAndre Hopkins. Well, as they saw the draft playing out, all those receivers are gone. I had mocked him Jahan Dotson, and he was gone in the teens. And so they probably said, all those guys are gone. Let's go trade for one. And Hollywood Brown for a first-round pick, he has not lived up to his first-round hype. I thought the Cardinals completely overpaid for him. I don't think the Ravens are going to miss Hollywood Brown one bit. Now they need to improve their receiver depth. And they drafted Rayshon Bateman last year in the first round. They've got a few other guys. The receivers aren't great. But once again, that tells you how well I think of Hollywood Brown. And hopefully he does well in Arizona reuniting with Kyler Murray. But not a good move by Steve Keim, in my opinion. All right, 26, we have the New York Jets trading in. Once again, another trade. Seemed like it was just every pick was being traded, which made it fun. Pick 26. So Jermaine Johnson, once again, I wouldn't have been shocked if Jermaine Johnson went 10th overall to the Jets. I would have been fine with it. I don't view him that high. I kind of viewed him more as a late first, early second round type guy. I just didn't see it with him like a lot of other people. But I think this is tremendous value. And so the Jets are coming out of this first round with Sauce Gardner at corner, Garrett Wilson at wide receiver, and Jermaine Johnson as a pass rusher. I mean, pretty good draft there for Joe Douglas. Now those guys have got to hit. They've got to go out in the field and produce. But on paper, the Jets had a tremendous outing here. Pick 27, Jacksonville Jaguars trade up into the first round to take Devin Lloyd. A lot of people's top-rated linebacker in this draft. He was my number 2 guy. I like Nakobe Dean better. I kind of like Christian Harris better too. But I mean, there was people that had him as a top 10 player. There was people out there that were mocking him in the top 10, and I like Devin Lloyd. I didn't see it. I thought, especially linebackers like him, I think they're better in the second half of the first round. I have no problem with him going here. I think it's a good value. The Jaguars have to replace Myles Jack, and I think he's going to be an upgrade over Jack. Pick 28, Green Bay Packers taking Devontae Wyatt. Once again, they don't take a receiver. I don't think there was anyone here for them to pass up on, and I didn't think they were going to reach. The Packers like to draft running wide receivers in the second and third round. So it just made sense. Here they get an interior pass rusher. They need someone besides Kenny Clark, who's not, he's more of a run defender, a power guy, not necessarily a quick speed up the field guy. Devontae Smith is that. And so I like that pick there for the Packers. Pick 29, we have, I think the biggest maybe surprise, and that's the New England Patriots taking Cole Strange, the offensive guard, offensive center out of Chattanooga. Here's a guy that I thought was going to go in the second round. So it was a little bit of a surprise having him go in the first round. But this is a typical Patriots pick. I mean, years ago they took Logan Mankins in the first round, and no one really thought that was going to happen. And he turned out to be an absolute stud, one of the best offensive linemen in the NFL for all the years that he did. So Bill Belichick likes guys like this. He does his own thing, and we'll see how this turns out. And they need help at left guard. And so I think Strange is the guy that's going to come in and, take a big jump, but we'll see how he fits. Pick 30, we have the Chiefs taking George Karlaftis. They need another pass rusher. I thought they might have gone with Boye Mafe, but I have Karlaftis rated higher than Mafe, and there was talk that maybe Karlaftis could fall out of the first round. I think he's a guy that I thought would be. I think I had the Eagles trading back with the Chiefs, and the Eagles taking Karlaftis. So it's only fitting that the Chiefs took him at this spot to give themselves another pass rusher. And they're going to play with lots of leads, and so they need guys that can get after the quarterback. Pick 31. It's only fitting that the Bengals take a Big Ten player. They love drafting Big Ten players, especially Michigan, Ohio State type guys. So they get Daxton Hill. Pair him up with Jesse Bates, play him in the slot. He's a versatile guy, safety, nickel corner. I think they're just going to say, hey, he's a good value player. We don't have a ton of needs, so let's just go get a good player and find a spot for him. And so many defenses are running 3 safety defenses. So once again, he's going to see the field. Teams are always in nickel, so not a big surprise there. Pick 32, the Vikings taking Lewis Cine. They're sitting there at 12 and could have taken Kyle Hamilton. And you trade back to get Lewis Cine, and we'll see what they do with pick 34. It's not a good, and who knows, maybe Kyle Hamilton turns out to be a bust, and Lewis Cine is the next stud safety, and I look like an idiot on here, like I probably already do. But it's just, once again, Vikings fans have to be sick to their stomach and not very happy with their new general manager. All right, that's going to go ahead and wrap it up for my first round review. I kind of sped through it, 34 minutes, maybe talked a little too fast, kind of went through picks fast. But like I said, it was a fun first round. I think I only got like 9 picks right. None of you care about that. But there wasn't, looking at the Huddle Mock Draft Contest, the winners, they didn't have, no one was setting records. But it was, like I said 100 times, it was a fun first round. I can't wait to see what the second round is going to bring. There's still a lot of talented guys available. I hope you enjoyed this. Make sure you subscribe. Not only subscribe, make sure you follow me on all social media, draft_Brian. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoy. Till next time.